through the entire OTAs and mini camp and the first couple days of training camp that there had only been one missed field goal. Is that accurate? And just how do you size up what you see right now between those kickers?
I mean, it was pretty close to accurate. It may have been 2, maybe 3 tops between the two of them. So they've both been doing a really good job. It's it should develop into a really good competition. I think they could have kicked a little better today, but they've both done a hell of a job, done everything we've asked. I think with the addition of with Morstead and Weeks and stuff, they've adjusted the operation really well, and I think it's going to be a really good competition as we get into camp in those preseason games.
Obviously, everything with that job is how they fare in games, but since you can't just base it on games, you won't get to see them both. How do you evaluate kicking throughout this period here when there aren't as many game opportunities?
Well, I think consistency, is the biggest thing, and anybody can go out there and make 4 kicks in a row or something like that in a practice, but if you can do it over time and they can see the consistency and the ball flight and everything like that is the same every time, like there's something to be said for that, and the times and everything else, and if a guy misses, can the other guy make right after? That's all the kind of stuff that you look for, right? The competitiveness, and that's what I want to see. And these guys are doing a really good job so far. And like I said, I thought they could have had a better day today, but they're doing a good job so far.
You're doing the alternating.
Yes, sir. Yeah, because I want to see them on the same days, right? I want to see them go back to back, see if they compete. I want to see them kicking in the same wind direction, things like that, right? And so it's the exact same kick right after, and see how they handle it, and let the team see them. And that's how you create pressure on the guys, and I think it's good. I think it's really good for competition.
Keep tabs.
Do we
keep tabs about on what's happening around the league as far as kicker competitions and how
Sure.
that could potentially impact your decision here?
Sure. I mean, that's all. Everybody has an emergency list, and every special teams coach in the league, every coach in the league has the personnel department does a great job here with John and those guys, and the communication's fantastic here, and so it's been a really good process through stuff like that.
Does how they handle kickoffs play a bigger role now with the rule change or is it most of the field?
Honestly, they're pretty similar, in leg strength and stuff like that. But as far as you're going to have to cover kicks, and that's what it comes down to. But as far as your ability to hit kicks and everything, that's gonna be able to, that's gonna have to come down at some point in part of that decision. If can he hit directionally both sides? Can he hit a knuckleball? Can he hit stuff like that we're asking him to do? That's going to be a big emphasis as we move forward for sure.
Bosa said the other day that he's been watching the kicker competition because he thinks it's exciting. Have you noticed more players paying attention than maybe you've seen in past kicker competitions?
I don't know. I've had a lot in New Jersey. I think every team's the same. They kind of want to see it, and just like any other competition, I think when everybody knows there's a battle, and that's what you're trying to create on every team is competition at every position for the most part, and when you see a battle like that going on, and you always want to watch it, and I just think back when I was a player, I was always wanting to watch those kind of battles and stuff like that, and that's what they're talking about, that will affect the team down the road, and so they want to see it. And I think it's cool that everybody's watching, and it puts that added pressure on and stuff like that, because that's where you're going to find out who has the upper leg or not.
In the case of Moody, do you go back and watch what he did last season to just get acquainted, see what he did, how he can improve, or did you just start from zero?
I've watched thousands of reps. I mean, you have to, right, to try to see how you can help him and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what he did in the past for me. When I come here, I want to see what he's done from here on, and you try to give everybody a clean slate when you get here, and I tried to do that, and so did Colt and Ronnie and stuff. So we tried to do that.
In terms of mental makeup, I mean, he was a highly drafted player, 99 third round, had a rough year. What kind of emotions or mental makeup did you see from him?
I seen a guy that lost his confidence a little bit, but I also seen a guy that was injured half the year. He's a super talented kid, and I think that that he's just got to get his stinger back, so to speak, and Greg is putting all the pressure on him that he can, and like I said, that's going to heat up. That battle is going to be fun to watch, as we get into the preseason games, that's for sure.
Special teams are always
The change in footwork, what have you noticed from that? Has it affected him?
I think it's helped, his get off times are really good. His ball flight's been good. So I think he's done a good job. He's done a good job adjusting to everything, and the new holder and the new snapper and stuff like that. The op times are down pretty good already, and they've only had a couple weeks to work with each other, so three weeks or so 4 weeks, and so I think that's been a big part of it, and they've done a good job, all three of them.
special teams are often put together on the fly because you don't know who you got until the last 53, as opposed to offense and defense, where you got a better idea. But you were at New York long enough that you must have had core guys that were used to you. What's it like coaching a blank slate?
That's a good question. I think it's always really cool to go into a building and then you develop your own opinions, because I don't want to ask people and get my view clouded when I first came here. And so I watched a ton of tape and studied these guys a ton. But when you come into a new building, you're trying to establish the culture that you're wanting to do. And I find it awesome. This is a great group of kids that are workers, that have studied so far. They've done everything I've asked, and I've really enjoyed being here. I really have. It's pretty cool to come into a new building and a whole new staff and everything like that when I had been there for so long. And I'm really happy to be here.
How helpful is it to have Morstead and Weeks, these veterans, savvy veterans, while everybody else is kind of learning on the fly around them?
It's it's awesome, because I've obviously had the relationship with Morstead for since he's been playing for me, and he's a friend of mine off the field, and that's because he's such a professional, and he does stuff right, and he's such a good leader and everything else. Weeks has been the same way. Everything I'd ever heard about Weeks, I'd always admired him from afar, just playing against him, because I could never get him, and the way I've heard about him being the man, a teammate, all that stuff, he's been fantastic. So it's been a good group to be around. The kicker competition's going to be really good going down the stretch, and we'll see, all that competition's going to be great.
A guy like Luke Gifford is not probably known to the average fan, but is he like one of those core guys that's well known in the special teams community right away?
Yeah, he's a four-core guy that's just a productive dude that's tough as hell and gets after people all the time. And we've played against him a bunch, and he always does a really good job. And guys like him fly under the radar a lot of times. And he's in a battle just like everybody other, 98% of this team is. And so, what it's going to come down to is how they produce in these preseason games, and then, the team gets together and makes a decision and sees what happened. But he's been a productive special teams player throughout his career, yes.
Looking down the road, are you given carte blanche to say, I want X number, like I want this guy on?
I wish that was the case, to be honest with you. I mean, every special teams coach would love that opportunity. No, absolutely not. It's all, every decision that's made is a mutual decision and a team decision. It's never comes down to one guy. Is that what you're asking?
I'm asking, like, Kyle or what, John, if you continue the process, will say, are there one or two guys or X number of guys that you need as core special teams?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not shameful to say that I will try to stand up as much as I can and try to bang on the table for the guys that I think can help this team win. And, but at the same time, you've got to be a good teammate as well as a coach. And there's things that are sometimes better for the team than just, it's not about an individual unit, it's about the team. And that's where the fine line comes in on you trying to get your guys, or if there's two guys close, what guy's better for offense, what guy's better for defense. And usually that's where you say, you be a good teammate and you say, hey man, whatever's best for the team, take that guy, And so it's a give and take, right? And it's all decisions that are talked about all the time through a lot of people, and then you make those decisions. Thanks, guys.
Brant has been just the most outstanding coordinator to me. He played the game at the highest level for a long time, and there's never any gray as far as where you stand related to standards and expectations. And we've grown to have a really close relationship, and he appreciates the the professionalism that I bring to the room. It's been an awesome relationship both ways, and I love playing for the guy, and grateful to be here at what feels like an awesome culture, awesome organization. I felt that in New Orleans for so many years, and you can just feel it, and so it's exciting to be a part of something that's where all the guns are pointing in the same direction.
There's a lot of newness to that special teams unit, but Jake Moody's one of the guys who's stuck around. So what have you been your first impressions of him and how to get him back on track?
Look, Jake's great. He probably came back a little too early from his ankle deal last year, and just kind of, some of these elite talents at specialist are kind of like finely tuned, foreign cars. And all of a sudden some cog gets out of whack and it's not back right, and you're trying to work through it, but there's no time to work through it because you're in the middle of the season, but they need you back. Just a tough situation. I'm glad that the team stuck with him last year. There's a reason he was drafted so high. He's super talented, and he's a young guy with a chip on his shoulder who's a little pissed off. And he's looked really good so far in camp. He's been fun to work with. He is a professional. He is not a young kid trying to figure out a routine. So I'm excited for him. That doesn't guarantee results, but he's got a great head on his shoulders, and it's been fun working with him.
Were you at all surprised when the Jets let you go?
How do I answer that? No, well, I know you guys want honest answers. Trust me, I understand that. I wasn't surprised, but I was disappointed. I don't have an agent, so I have always kind of directly communicated with people that I have relationships in the building to just kind of set understanding of like whatever the reality is, and it was just. I know they say they're trying to win this year, but they're starting a new thing, and they kind of cleaned house. I'm about to be 40 next year, and unless you think you've got a shot at the Super Bowl, generally speaking, teams that are in that part of a cycle are probably not looking to build for the future with somebody like me. You don't want to get stuck with a guy that's going to fall off a cliff at some point. I keep pushing that cliff away. It was disappointing. I thought I'd either get released before free agency or I'd have an opportunity to compete and go win that job. But no hard feelings. I'm in a great spot. It's where I want to be. I'm working with people that I love to work with. Brant being one, and Mike Nicolini, the head strength coach, who came from New York. Those are the two people I interface with the most. And so it's kind of like, sometimes you go to a new place, you don't know the dynamics of how things work and the timing of how things are going to work and what expectations are. Like, I know exactly what the expectations are, and I've really enjoyed working with both of those guys. And it was a big reason I went back to New York in 2023 after having been with them for a stint in 21. So, so I'm fired up to be here. No hard feelings. It was disappointing, I guess, is what I would say. But, I've got nothing's ever guaranteed. But, the team has shown through the contract and just the situation that, like, hey, I'm the plan, so I can plan to move my family out here, get schools situated. I got 5 kids. I got a wife, God bless her, that is still kind of okay with me doing this, strange lifestyle. And so those things for me to sign early, I would have just waited till the season started or close to to dial something up if nobody was going to kind of step up with some sort of significant guarantees that I could, plan on being somewhere for the fall. And that's just my family situation now. And so, there were a few teams, but Brant being here really made it a big, that would have been tough to beat, having him here.
What is your training and approach now than say like 10 years ago?
I kind of have a cycle, when I was younger, I was training every day, all the time, just lifting weights all the time. I was kind of like the golfers coming up in the early 2000s. All of a sudden, Tiger's lifting weights and he's hitting it further than everybody. It's kind of this new age thing. I kind of felt like one of those guys coming out of college, where I was kind of like a unique, different breed. And you go through an injury, you learn. Experience teaches you make adjustments, and I kind of went too far down the old, you really need to focus on your rest and your recovery, and you do, but I've kind of come back up, and for the past 5 years or so, more is better. It doesn't necessarily mean more volume, but I mean I'm doing certain lifts. I'm just as strong as I've ever been, and it's certainly why I'm still playing, is because I'm a gym rat, and I've been able to, build out processes for myself that have enabled me to, feel good in August, but feel really good in December, so that if we're making a playoff push, hopefully I'll be at my very best when we're playing in cold weather and, grimier conditions. So I think it's been a huge part of my success is just being strong and staying in the gym. I'd say the biggest changes have been the capacity of what I can handle off the field. I'm not single. I don't not have a family. So like having kids, young kids, wake ups in the night, 2 kids are sick, all that stuff that you have to manage during the season. We just have got a good plan for all that stuff now. And dealing with that sort of anxiousness as a young guy and performance anxiety, once you deal with a few injuries as a veteran, then your mindset shifts to just like, man, if I can just feel good on Sunday, I'm going to play good. And so that's what it's all about, is getting to Sunday, feeling physically healthy, feeling good, feeling strong, confident, twitchy, if that's possible at 39. And, that allows you to go out and play with confidence.
What makes Brant Boyer a good special teams coach?
A lot of things. He has real humility. If he's wrong, he'll take accountability just like you'd expect any player on the team to do. He played the game at the highest level. He got cut a bunch. He has empathy for what that's like to be an NFL player. And he had to be counted on in a bunch of different positions, kind of as like a top tier backup that would know every linebacker spot on the field, plus personal protector, slot, guard. He had to know what everybody did, and he could fill in at every slot. And he kind of was like I think he would tell you he probably got a few extra years in playing just because he was a coach on the field and a mentor to help young guys come along. So he gets it. He's played the game. He's able to compartmentalize better than most coaches I've been around. What I mean by that is he can be hard on you. He can be your boss. He can be the guy that you have to answer to. And then 30 minutes later, he's the guy that's like, hey, should we go grab a beer at the bar and be buddies? He can do both of those. And I don't think most coaches are able to do that. And so he's honest, brutally honest. He wears his heart on his sleeve. And quite honestly, he puts in the hours and the work that are required for him to be prepared. And it's kind of like, it's hard to be mad at any player that makes a mistake that's investing at a higher level than anybody around him. He's just got that old school quality to him. And but I think the biggest thing is just honest transparency. Like, you just always know where you stand. And I wish more coaches that I've worked with in my career were able to do that, or made a decision to do that. And it's something I just so appreciate about him. The job's stressful enough and difficult enough and challenging enough when you don't have trust issues with your coach or people that you deal with. And when you have that, it's just really kind of a special thing that you don't want to, if you have a choice of who you're going to work with, like that would be, you know, it's worth a lot, I guess is what I would say, for quality of life. And just coming to work every day, looking forward to who you're working with is an awesome thing. What's that?
Have you ever had an agent?
I have, yeah.
How did you make the decision?
That's a long story, but I would just say this, you know, without poo-pooing on anybody, that no, without doing that, I would say a thing that really drove me nuts as a player when it came time to have a contract discussion and kind of playing this game of telephone between an intermediary, I didn't like that, and I just felt like, you know, if you're respected and you can look people in the eye, at least if they are going to say something like negative or something that you don't want to hear, they have to tell it to you directly. And I just like knowing where I stood with upstairs. And so I certainly don't recommend that for everybody or even most. But I've been around the block, and I've been able to establish, you know, good relationships pretty much everywhere I've been. And you know, I think probably it's refreshing for upstairs to just look somebody in the eye if they're capable of doing it, and if they're not, probably not somewhere you want to go to begin with. So it's just kind of a personal preference, and you know, like I said, it's nice to know where you stand, and they can look you in the eye, and you know, you just know what it is. So,
All right. Thanks, guys.
all right, appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
do you feel about just how you're striking the ball at this point throughout the offseason and the early days of camp?
It's feeling real consistent. Changed my approach from a 3-step to a 2-step. And, what that did, at least in my mind, was, keep everything kind of shorter and more consistent as far as, less variables of having a third jab step is what I would call it. So just kind of taking that out gets me to the ball a little quicker. I get to kind of see it get down a little sooner. I don't have to leave quite as fast, so it allows me to kind of, really see the ball on the ground and then be able to make some good contact. So I think it's been going really well.
Is that something you toyed with before?
No, this.
It sounds like kind of a big deal, was it?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a big change, and talked it through with kicking coaches, other kickers, pretty much everybody, because last season I felt like my jab step was getting kind of inconsistent. So, a way to kind of fix that is to just eliminate it. And, after speaking with my coaches and different kickers across the league, it seems like a lot of guys transition to that throughout their careers. At least some of the older guys have had success with it. So hopefully, I'll follow in their footsteps, and it's a good change.
Is there anybody in particular?
So how that works, like what the kind of acclimation period, how long it takes to adjust to it, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just normally I like to take a little time off, kind of like an MLB pitcher. After the season's over, you don't throw a ball for a month or so. I usually don't kick a ball for a month or so, but cut the off season a little short because obviously wanted more time to work on it, and went down to Florida for about a month, working with my kicking coach down there, and kind of worked on the different steps, got to a spot where it felt comfortable, and I can just kind of roll straight into it. And now, having done it so many times, if I try to go back to a 3-step, it feels like I've never done it before. So I feel like I've done it enough times to where now it just feels natural again.
How was your confidence level, Jake, after last season, once the season ended, and where is it now?
Yeah, last season was tough. I wouldn't really say there was, like thoughts about like confidence or anything like that. It was just more so learning experiences and just kind of moving on to the now, not, harping on, what had happened, but just kind of focusing on the present, talking with people about, mindsets to kind of move forward, and having that kind of process over outcome mindset, and that's kind of helped me just, focus on the task at hand, which is, at the moment that I'm on the field, it's just focus on the kick. Don't worry about the results or anything that might follow.
Marissa just said that he feels like you have a chip on your shoulder now. Would you say that back?
Yeah, I would say so.
Those veteran kickers that you're modeling the change in technique after, who's influenced you as far as those guys who've changed?
Yeah, one of them was Matt Prater. He kind of does like a tiny little 3rd step, but he just kind of picks it up and places it back down. So he's a guy that, I looked up to growing up as a kid. Being from Southeast Michigan, he was playing for the Lions back then. And I know Mason Crosby from the Packers, Vinatieri, guys like that, they all kind of have a shorter approach, just kind of keeping it more compact. If they have enough strength, there's, not the issue of needing to get a super big run up. So just kind of keeping it shorter and simple is, it seems to work for most guys.
How about the kicking competition with Greg? How are you living it?
I'm just kind of focused on what I'm doing. Like I said, just process over outcome. And, whenever I'm on the field, I'm focused on my kick. Whenever I'm not, I'm just, living in the moment, not worried about what other people are doing or anything like that.
Can you explain a little bit more about just this chip on the shoulder? Like all athletes have something to motivate them. What's your motivation? Is it just stem from last year of kind of getting rushed back to kick, or just the nature of competition? What is it?
It's just, I want to prove to myself that, I deserve to be here and that I belong. And it doesn't have anything to do with last year or other people or anything. Like I said, just kind of changed my mindset to just focusing on the now and, doing whatever I can do in the moment to help myself, best make kicks.
You alluded to it a minute ago. So some kickers, you say they do with a three-step. So the sacrifice is maybe a little bit of power. Is it kind of? So did you have to kind of figure out like, hey, I can still generate enough power with the two-step to kick the distances that I need to? Was that part of it? How did you figure that out?
Yeah, that was kind of the discussions I've had with coaches and players, and obviously if you're not getting as far of a run up, you're probably not going to get as much power. I feel like maybe I've sacrificed a yard or two, but nothing like crazy, nothing where I feel like it's going to hinder my performance. And I think overall it's going to be more beneficial to have this two-step approach.
So this isn't something where like if it was 2 yards beyond whatever, you would go back to a three-step. You would always stay with it.
Yeah, I would stay with the two-step, unless it's like Justin Tucker with his 66-yarder. I don't know if you guys care about kicking that much, but he took kind of like an extra little step back before he did his run up, and maybe in that circumstance I would kind of try to generate more power, but from the distance that I give, pregame, my line is what I call it, that isn't really going to get affected too much.
What's it like working with Coach Boyer? How do you think he can make you better?
Yeah, he's awesome. He's definitely bringing like a new kind of fire to the special teams group, and having him kind of come in with that kind of mindset and that attitude, it's really helping kind of light a fire. And I think as a unit, not only the specialists but the whole special teams, I think everybody's ready to kind of prove that we can be a really good unit.
Let's do more. Go Brant here.
Yeah, last year the numbers, it was a very stark difference, obviously, between before your injury and after your injury. Did you give any thought to like the little break and just I don't know, just continue to do what I've always done, and because a lot of this may have been about that injury?
Yeah, I get. Yeah, that was part of the conversation that I had with people is should I just kind of take a break, take a step back, and kind of go back to what I've always done. And after watching lots of film and kind of analyzing my different kicks, it's just that jab step was kind of always inconsistent. Not just the previous year, but also my rookie season as well. So, like I said, the more variables and different things I can kind of eliminate, just to keep things more kind of consistent and concise, I think it'll be better in the long run. So that's kind of why I decided to make a change.
Anything else, guys? All right, cool. Thank you.
Yep.
We'll have Greg Joseph in soon as well.